Hi, everybody. Vasu Vatapalli here for the VPartySports podcast. We're sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. Mention the podcast on Sunday during NFL Sunday Ticket Hours. We have a live show there every Sunday from 9:30 to 10:30. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But you mention the podcast on Sundays during the NFL Sunday Ticket, you receive 10% off your entire bill. We're here today, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow with a replay both today and tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the East, 3 o'clock in the West. Don't forget to check out the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose, for your NBA, NCAA, NHL, happy hour specials, live DJ music. All right, lots to talk about today. NCAA basketball getting going, some tournaments going across the country, top 25 teams at it. The NBA will have 3 games tonight after a big night last night, 7 games, including the Warriors, who gave up 72 points again in the first half last night. How about that? Oh, my gosh. 0-8 on the road, 6-1 at home, but they lose to Phoenix, who made them a road favorite. Go figure on my part. And, of course, we have the NCAA basketball, NCAA football. We have a number of top 25 teams this weekend and next weekend being the last weekend of regular season football. BCS rankings will come out on that following Sunday, Thanksgiving Sunday, and then it'll be bowl time. And then the BCS championships will take place early part of January, with the championship game culminating on January 12th is when the NCAA championship game will take place for the BCS. But we've got a lot of time before that. Let's start out week 11 in the NFL. We'll start tonight. We've got the Green Bay Packers hosting the Tennessee Titans. Green Bay came apart of the seams in that 5-game losing streak, but they finally got a win of all teams over the Cowboys. Cowboys with that pretty good defense, but Dak Prescott made too many mistakes. The 3-point favorite for Green Bay. Tennessee with the total of 41. Green Bay had that win over Dallas, as said, broke the 5-game losing streak. They're 4-6 right now. Tennessee beat Denver in comeback fashion last week behind Tannehill. Derrick Henry only ran for 53 yards, 17-10. They win. They improved to 6-3 overall. They still have a 2-game lead over the Indianapolis Colts in the AFC South. Now, against the spread, the Tennessee Titans are 7-2. All their wins have covered. The one loss that they did cover was the Kansas City Chiefs 2 Sundays ago. In overtime, they lost 20-17. They were a 14-point underdog. Malik Willis started that game, thus the line was as high as it was. Green Bay now 4-6, both in the standings and against the spread. They're 2-3 at home. One of those losses was to the Giants. That was in England, but that was considered a home game. So really 2-2 against the spread at home, and then 0-1 internationally. Tennessee 4-1 against the spread on the road. Derrick Henry is second in the league in rushing. He's at 853 yards, 953 yards behind Nick Chubb. And Green Bay's defense is 26th versus the run. So you might see Tennessee become physical, try and have Derrick Henry run the ball as much as he can. More numbers to go in the Green Bay-Tennessee game for tonight. As we said, it's a big game for Tennessee. They want to maintain that lead in the AFC South over Indianapolis, and then Green Bay trying to stay as close as they can in the playoff structure. Actually, let's see where they are on the playoff structures. We look at the standings right now. Playoff-wise, we know where they are in the NFC North. Minnesota's 8-1. We'll get to Minnesota in a second. Kind of interesting note there. Minnesota's 8-1, and Green Bay's 4-6. They are 9th. They are 1 game back of Washington and 2 games back of the 49ers, who occupy the 7th spot. So a win by Green Bay could help their chances. Washington and San Francisco play this weekend. They are 4-6, again, 5 games back of Minnesota. So you look at the numbers, inside the numbers, 3rd versus the pass. Green Bay is 3rd defensively versus the pass. Tennessee doesn't throw the ball a lot. Ryan Tannehill will get those short passes going, but they rely on Derrick Henry. They rely on the running game. They rely on tight end catches. They rely on a lot of intermediate to medium to short stuff. So I guess that'd be intermediate. They are 3rd versus the pass. So that don't expect Ryan Tannehill to test the Packer defense going deep or long routes. If you see the running route tree that they have, that most coaches have on the 9 routes, a lot of those out routes and a lot of those go routes on the last 3 are not occupied as much as the middle 6 to each side. So Green Bay 3rd with the pass. Said Derrick Henry 2nd in the NFL in rushing. Green Bay is 23rd versus the run. That's not good. They've given up a lot of yards on the run this year, and that explains some of their 6 losses as we go to it right now. Tennessee, defensively, they are 2nd versus the run. Again, Aaron Rodgers has not had a great year. He's 9th in passing in terms of passing yards, but Tennessee is 31st versus the pass. So you try and get them into 3rd and long situations and just play as physical as you can. Try and keep them behind the chains, because if Rodgers has a chance to pick you apart, then he's going to. And 31st versus the pass is not going to help Tennessee tonight. Offensively, they're both challenged. 18 points a game, Tennessee scores per game. They're 8th defensively in terms of points. Green Bay, 21 points given up defensively. That's middle of the pack. Offense for Green Bay, they're struggling by their 4-6 record. 18.5 points a game is what the defense is allowing for Green Bay. The offense is scoring 18.5 points for Green Bay. Derrick Henry, 2nd in the league in rushing, as we said. Rodgers, 9th in passing yards. Green Bay, 12th overall between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You thought they would get more rush yards out of Dillon and Aaron Jones to complement Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. They just haven't done it at all. And Green Bay, 3-41, said the win over Dallas, an overtime win. A lot of mistakes by the Cowboys this weekend. All right, as we get to it here, we'll give you the best bets for the segment, but a lot to go with from Green Bay and Tennessee. Tennessee runs the ball well. Green Bay doesn't stop the run. Green Bay is average at passing. Tennessee last versus the pass. Offensively, Tennessee doesn't score. Green Bay gives up more points than they do score. They're -3 in point differential are the Green Bay Packers. Meanwhile, Tennessee is +2 in terms of point differential. They give up about 16.9 a game. They score 18.4 a game. All right, let's get to the NFL lines for the week. As we said, we've got a few games to go over this week. We'll just run through them real quickly. We'll give you our best bet segment. We'll hit some NBA, college basketball, and maybe a little hockey at the end too. College football, lots of top 25 games this weekend as well too. All right, Baltimore hosting Carolina. Baltimore 6-3. They are running away with the AFC North. I wouldn't say running away, but Cleveland and Pittsburgh are down there. Cincinnati 5-4. Baltimore a game ahead. They're a 13-point favorite against Carolina. We saw what Carolina did the last couple of weeks. They're 3-7, tied with the Saints. This is the first game since Carolina came off the Atlanta win 2 Thursdays ago. Buffalo, tough loss last week against the Minnesota Vikings, 7-point favorite. They're an 8-point favorite at home versus Cleveland. Now, Cleveland's not Minnesota. Josh Allen is healthy. He will play, but 42 points to total. Deshaun Watson's starting to practice for Cleveland, but he's still ineligible to play for 2 more weeks, so he won't be back until week. Let's see, this is the 11th. Well, he won't be eligible to come back till week 13, even if he does start at that point. See where the Browns' record is when it comes to week 13. They're 3-6 right now. Playoff-wise, they're fighting it out with a bunch of teams. In the AFC, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, the Chargers, and the Patriots all ahead of them at 3-6. Denver, Pittsburgh behind them at 3-6. And then Jacksonville, Las Vegas, and Houston there with you. All right, so Buffalo and Cleveland. And we know Buffalo now is the 6th best record in the AFC. They're in 2nd place in the division, believe it or not. The hot team coming in. Not only are they behind Miami, who leads the division at 7-3, they've lost the game in head-to-head fashion to the Jets early in the year. So they're 6-3, tied with them, but in 3rd place. I would have never said that Buffalo in Week 11 would be in 3rd place in their own division, let alone 6th overall in the AFC Conference. But they probably will make the playoffs. They have all the tiebreakers. They have the tiebreaker over New England, and they have the tiebreaker. They have tiebreakers in the conference over the Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals as well, too. All right, Philadelphia, 7-point favorite in Indianapolis, 44.5 the total. We know about Philadelphia last week, 8-1 now after the loss to the Commodores, an 11-point favorite to Washington. 43.5 was the total in that game. Washington totally outplayed them. They ran the ball on them. Taylor Heineke looked good. Eagles got off to a good start, but they just couldn't maintain the momentum, and Washington came back to beat them. They're 8-1, and when I say 8-1, there's nothing to relax upon like the Vikings at 8-1, because the Vikings have a 5-game lead in their division. Philadelphia is only a game up on the Giants. They're 7-2. The New York Giants are 7-2. They don't score a lot of points. In fact, they're 59 points back in points scored versus the Eagles, 187 for the Giants, 246 points for the Philadelphia Eagles. 7-point favorite in Indianapolis, 44.5. Not only is it a big game standings-wise for them, they've got to maintain the best record in the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles are 8-1. The Minnesota Vikings are 8-1. They beat Minnesota early in the year, so they have that tiebreaker over them. Seattle leads the West at 6-4, and Tampa Bay at 5-5. But then you get to the wild card. The Giants are 7-2. Dallas is 6-3. Both better records than Seattle and Tampa. And then San Francisco 5-4, coming off their win last week against the Chargers Sunday night. And then Washington, of course, we just mentioned Monday night over Philadelphia. So, and here's the interesting part about this game. A side note on this game is the Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni, the coach for Philadelphia, was the defensive coordinator for Indianapolis 2 years ago. Philadelphia hired him last year, had some success, but this year they are rolling. They've got they're going up against Jeff Saturday, who's 1-0 in his coaching career after never having coached in high school, in college, or in the pros. He came down from the consultant booth. But Philadelphia road favorite at 7. Jonathan Taylor back for Indianapolis, 44.5 the total. All right, the Washington Commodores, we just spoke of them. They won on Monday night. They're 5-5 now. They're last in the division because of Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys are all there. But 5-5 is not that far off from both the Giants and the Cowboys. They are 8th overall in the wild card race. 5-5, a half back of the San Francisco 49ers and 2 back of Dallas. So right now, San Francisco, Washington, Green Bay, even Atlanta and Arizona still have a shot. Atlanta's got a better shot at the division. They're only a game back of Tampa Bay. By the way, Tampa Bay has a bye this week. We'll get to the byes on Sunday morning for your fantasy football reports as well, too. So Sirianni goes back to Indianapolis for the first time since he left the defensive coordinator spot, comes in with an 8-1 record. They look to gain back the momentum. They lost against Washington, and Philadelphia looking to have a good game, a good bounce-back game against the Colts. The Colts need this game as well, too. Based on what happens with Tennessee, there'll be 2 games back coming into the weekend. But Tennessee can improve to 7-3 if somehow they can get a win on the road at Green Bay. Indianapolis 4-5-1. Again, Jeff Saturday got his first win coming down from the consultancy booth. They went into Las Vegas. They beat the Raiders, a 4-point underdog against the Raiders. Any coach looks good if you've got Jonathan Taylor running for 162 yards. So that's where the Colts are at. Hard to lay more than a touchdown on the road as a favorite in the NFL. Everybody has NFL players, and it's just hard to lay more than even 6 points on the road to anybody. But 7 points for Philadelphia, 44.5 the total. Washington, again, 3 at Houston. Houston Texans offense, just horrible. They just had a rough time last week against the Giants. They were able to move the ball down the field a little bit, but turnovers in the red zone killed them. The Commanders, I should say. I keep saying Commodores last 2 weeks. Somebody pointed that out to me on Facebook and YouTube. Why are you saying Commodores? That's Vanderbilt. Washington Commanders, let's get that right. 5-5, 3-point favorite at Houston. They can run the ball. Heineke has been great. They're 3-1 with Taylor Heineke at quarterback right now. It's going to be interesting to see how well they come into, because a win by Washington right now keeps them in that NFC East conversation as far as the division goes, but also moves them up potentially a spot into the wild card race as well. Houston 1-7-1 coming in. Their only tie was at the beginning of the year, and their only win was early in the year as well. So 1-7-1 they've got, and they're 0-3 against the NFC. Well, with only one win, you're going to have a lot of offers to begin with. Meanwhile, Washington 5-5. They're 3-4 in the count. They're 2-1 against the AFC this year. They beat Indianapolis on the road early in the year, but they're a 3-point favorite here. All right, the Jets and the Patriots, a division game, back to the good old days. Jets in second place, the Patriots in last place in the division. New England 5-4, in 7th in the wild card standings right now. The Jets are 5th in the wild card. They're 6-3. They're a half game back of the Miami Dolphins for first place, but they are ahead of Buffalo, who's 6th. The Patriots are a 3-point favorite. They usually have the Jets number 37.5, the total for the New York Jets. Zach Wilson playing well for the Jets. Mac Jones trying hit and miss every once in a while here with the Patriots. They're coming off their bye week. They're a 3-point favorite, 37.5. The Giants are a 3-point favorite versus Detroit. Giants, we said, came off that win. They don't score a lot of points, but their defense and Saquon Barkley is their calling card right now. The Lions have come off their victory against the Packers last week. They've won 2 in a row. They beat the Packers and they beat the Bears last weekend, and they beat the Packers 2 weeks ago. The comeback win against the Bears last week, even with Justin Fields and all he was doing. The Saints are a 3.5-point favorite versus the Rams. Both teams going nowhere. It looks like Stafford will play this week. Rams can't stop the rush. Alvin Kamara there for the Saints, but you got to think the Rams, after their loss last week, would come back and be able to come back and take care of the Saints and kind of keep themselves in the NFC West if they can. They're 3-6 right now. It's going to be hard to catch Seattle and San Francisco. San Francisco has the highest percentage to win the division right now. And then the Atlanta Falcons, 3-point favorite over the Chicago Bears. Bears have had tough luck this year. They've lost 2 games that they shouldn't have. The Commanders game early in the year, the Lions game last week, the Dolphins, they had them on the ropes as well 2 weeks ago, but they're a 3-point underdog. Justin Fields has been outstanding, 49 the total. You can see some offense here. They can't stop the run very well. Can Chicago? We'll break all those numbers down for you for these early games on the podcast Sunday live from the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, 9:30 Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can see us live. Come down and meet us, mention the podcast, and you'll get 10% off your entire bill. All right, the afternoon games, the late afternoon games that we've got. How about this? We're talking about Minnesota here. The Minnesota Vikings are a 1-point underdog at home. They're 8-1. Cowboys are 6-3. Do the odds makers think Dallas is that much better? A road favorite at an 8-1 team, 47.5. I think I read where it's like 30 years where that has happened. Since that's happened, where an 8-1 team is a home underdog. 47.5 the total. Of course, you remember Cooper Rush came in last year for Dak Prescott, was able to get that victory, that last second victory over the Vikings in Minnesota. This one's at Minnesota again. 8-1, that win off Buffalo, and they're still not getting any respect. Go figure. Cincinnati, a 4-point favorite at Pittsburgh. This one got flexed out of Sunday night into the late window. The Chargers and Chiefs will move into Sunday night. 4-point favorite for Cincinnati on the road. Pittsburgh came off the win versus New Orleans, 41 the total in that game. Joe Burrow still getting sacked too much. They're 5-4. They're a game back of the Ravens, who are 6-3. They have the tiebreaker over Cincinnati, does Baltimore, with the win a few Sunday nights ago, 19-17 on a game-winning field goal. Pittsburgh 3-6 out of it. 4-point underdog at home. They play well at home as an underdog. Saw that against New England. We saw that last week against the Saints as well, too. And then the Denver Broncos, a 3-point favorite over the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas is a mess right now. Denver's at home. They can't score, about 17 points a game. They're giving up very few points, 41 the total. The last time they played in Las Vegas, it went 29-23 in favor of the Raiders. So this might be a game for the Raiders if they can put any offense together to get through to Denver. In Denver, they've had success in Denver, by the way, so a 3-point underdog may not be that much. All right, when we come back, we'll give you our best bet segment for the NFL. We'll talk a little NBA, NCAA. Vasu Party here with the VPartySports podcast, sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. You mentioned the podcast on Sunday during the live broadcast. And then you'll receive 10% off your bill during the entire day for Sunday ticket. Back in 30 seconds with a little more NBA, NCAA football, and NCAA basketball. We'll talk a little hockey to close it out. Of course, we'll give you our worldwide, world-famous, never duplicated best bet segment as we get on with the podcast. Vasu Party here on this Thursday afternoon. Don't forget, we'll replay this if you missed any part of it. 6 Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Welcome back to the VParty Sports Podcast. Vasu Party here with you, sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. Check them out for their daily happy hour specials. Go down and check out the live DJ music. Mention the podcast on Sundays during the Sunday broadcast that we have there. Get 10% off your bill. All right, let's move on here to the NCAA. Lots of games going on in the NCAA. We'll have a full preview on Saturday, but tonight, Tulane, number 21 Tulane, a 3.5-point favorite over SMU. Tulane's offense rolling rolling right now. They did have a tough loss last week, but SMU's defense cannot stop anybody. Be interesting to see 65.5, the total there. Let me get to some numbers here, if we can find some numbers here for them. SMU 5-5 against the spread, 6-4 overall. Tulane 8-2 overall, but 8-2 against the spread as well, 3.5. A lot of people think SMU might win this game. 65% of the spread consensus says Tulane minus 3.5. The total at 65.5 has come down. SMU has scored 40 points. They've given up 32. Tulane, 32 points scored, only given up 19 per game. All the yardage all favor SMU, but Tulane's defense has played very well. Obviously, getting into the top 25, they are number 21. All right, let's get to the other NCAA football this weekend. We've got Georgia, number 1, at Kentucky this weekend. Georgia trying to maintain perfect record, number 1 in the BCS. Ohio State still number 2. They visit Maryland in the Big Ten game. Another Big Ten team, Michigan, number 3, hosts Illinois. TCU, the Horned Frogs, they got the big win against Texas. They go to Baylor. They'll probably be a road favorite at Baylor. They're the 4th. They are about a 2.5-point favorite at Baylor. Actually, as I look at it, Georgia is a favorite. They will be a favorite. They're 22.5 at Kentucky. Ohio State is 27.5 at Maryland, and Michigan is 18 against Illinois. Illinois was in the top 25 previous to last week. So TCU 2.5 at Baylor. Tennessee at number 5 at South Carolina this week. The number 6 LSU Tigers, they're going to get their annual bye in between before the Iron Bowl, as will Alabama. LSU will play University of Alabama Birmingham, and Alabama will play Austin Peay. So those two games before they get ready for their final games of the year, Alabama and Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and LSU in their final game against Texas A&M the following week. So LSU versus UAB. UCLA at number 16 will host USC at number 7. Not a lot of defense expected in this game. USC needing a big win and hopefully some help for them to move up into the top 4 in the BCS rankings. Alabama, we said Austin Peay. Clemson, defensively, they're really good. They're going to host Miami this week in an ACC game. Miami has just struggled. Pac-12 supremacy, besides UCLA and USC, Utah and Oregon still have a shot in the Pac-12. This will be at Oregon. Oregon with a tough loss at home to Washington last week, and Utah just keeps rolling. They had their win last week against Stanford. They blew out Stanford. North Carolina will host Georgia Tech. Mississippi, Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin will host Arkansas. K-State will be at West Virginia, and then Washington, off their big win, moved into number 17. They're going to Colorado. Notre Dame at number 20 will host Boston College. Florida State will host the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Central Florida will be at Navy. Central Florida at number 20 going into the rankings this week. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Bedlam. Oklahoma State, after playing horrifically for last 3 weeks defensively, they still stayed in the top 25. They're 22nd. They'll go to Oklahoma. They'll play that Bedlam game as they do every year. Oregon State will be at Arizona State, another Pac-12 game. Oregon State 23. North Carolina State 24 will be at Louisville. North Carolina State's offense has been horrendous the last few weeks. Of course, they lost their quarterback, Leary. So Louisville and Cunningham, they had a rough go of it at Clemson last week. Then Cincinnati at number 25 will go to Temple. Cincinnati still in it for the American Conference Championship. They lose the tiebreaker to UCF if they end up tied. So there you have it in the top 25. All right, now let's get to some best bets here. Let's go to college. Let's go to NFL, actually. Tonight, the NFL, I like Tennessee +3. I just like the way they run the ball against Green Bay. I just got a feeling that they're going to shut that defense down. Mike Vrabel likes to play a physical-style defense. Don't know what the weather's going to be like in Green Bay, but I got to think that Tennessee is going to come out on top. They're going to increase their lead in the AFC South. They'll be 7-3, and they will cover the underdog point spread. They're 4-1 against the spread on the road. A lot of those were underdogs, including that Kansas City game that they have as well, too. All right, so that's your best bet for the NFL. As we said, the NFL line's going underneath right now. You can see all the Sunday games, the continuation of Week 11 as we get to it. But for me, Tennessee +3 tonight at Green Bay. I know Green Bay just got off that big win over Dallas. Sometimes that win will lead into a shortened week, which it's doing right now. And I just got a feeling in Tennessee, even though they're going on the road, going to come back and beat Green Bay on the road tonight. All right. NCAA top 25 in hoops. We've got 6 games in the top 25 tonight. Texas A&M, Murray State, they're going on right now. South Carolina, Myrtle Beach Invitational. Kentucky, number 4. What a game they played. What a game they played against Michigan State. 2 overtimes the other night. They came out on the short end, but they're going to get back on track. They're about a 41-point favorite against South Carolina upstate. TCU, number 15, will host UL Monroe. Creighton will host UC Riverside tonight. They are in, let's see, where are they? These auto spells, I guess everybody knows about that on your phone. These auto spells do not come out to be very good. So, there you go. Now Creighton hosts UC Riverside. Arizona hosts Utah Tech. If it was Utah, it'd be a better Big 12 game. And then Michigan in Brooklyn will play in the Legends Classic versus Arizona State. See the NFL lines going at the bottom. Too early to talk about some NCAA games. We've had some big games already. The Duke and Kansas game Tuesday night. The Kentucky and Michigan State game. Last night, Gonzaga played Texas. They got blown out by Texas in Austin after they barely beat Michigan State on Friday on the USS military boat, Navy boat last Friday in San Diego, the USS Abraham last Friday night. So Gonzaga, Michigan State playing top 10 teams, top 25 teams, and their schedule. Hopefully down there, it will down the road, it will help them when it comes to March. And we know how it is with Tom Izzo when it comes to March. All right, a couple of NHL games to talk about. Boston leading the way in the NHL 14-2. They host Philadelphia tonight. Flyers have had a good year to start. Carolina on a little bit of a win streak. They're at 10 wins now. They host Colorado. Florida hosts Dallas. Tampa Bay hosts Calgary. New Jersey second in the Eastern Conference. They are at Toronto. They're an underdog at Toronto, surprisingly, with a 12-3 record. Seattle, the Kraken slumping a little bit. They will host the Rangers. And then Las Vegas, and I only brought this up because you rarely see it, but against certain teams, you will get these type of odds. A 4-1 favorite, minus 420 for Las Vegas. Is it worth the $10 on Arizona at plus 370? I think it might be. But Las Vegas, a 420 favorite versus Arizona. And then right here in my neck of the woods, the San Jose Sharks, which is right down the street, the arena right down the street from the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. Go do your pregame if you're in the area. Go do your pregaming at the Brit before you head on over to the hockey game, 10:30 Eastern for the San Jose Sharks as they host the Detroit Red Wings. All right, we gave you our best bets already for the NFL. We'll go through that again. Tennessee +3 against Green Bay tonight. In the NBA, only 3 games in the NBA tonight. You have to look at them pretty closely. Brooklyn gave up 153 points the other night at Sacramento. I don't think it's going to get any better for them. They are totally in disarray, total disarray right now. Portland can score. They've got Damian Lillard back. They proved it against San Antonio earlier in the week with that victory. 222 over between Portland and Brooklyn. College basketball, we don't have a lot of college basketball to talk about, but some of these good games that are out there. Central Michigan against Minnesota tonight, plus 10.5. Colorado State laying 1 point to South Carolina. And then Virginia Commonwealth laying 4 points tonight as well for the 3 college bets. And then in hockey, we'll give you a couple of hockey ones here. Tampa Bay, New Jersey is an underdog. Carolina, the Islanders, and the Grand Salami. And the Grand Salami is where you take all the games and they give you a number for the over-under in goals. So you either just pick it over or pick it under in the total number of games. So 83, probably the average is about 6. So there's probably about 12, 13 games in the NHL tonight. So I'm going to go over 83. Lots of goal scoring in the NHL early this year. So the Lightning, Devils, Hurricane, Islanders, 4 games there. College basketball, Central Michigan, Colorado State, VCU. And then in the NBA, Portland, Brooklyn over 222. And then Tennessee, the Titans are going to pull the upset off at Green Bay. They're going to win the game outright. They'll cover, but they'll win the game outright, and they'll improve their AFC South standing with that victory tonight. All right, the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. Happy hours every day, music every night, NBA, NHL, NCAA sports, all on all the TVs, 20 plus TVs inside, 6 outside. Go down and see the staff. Of course, we'll be there on Sunday, 9:30 West Coast time. 9:30 West Coast time for the live show. Come down and say hi. We'd love to meet you. Come on down and check out all the previews for Week 11 NFL, for all the previews for Sunday's games, including the night game. There is no early game. There's no European game this weekend, Germany, London. So all the games will start at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific. We'll have every single preview for you for Sunday. So we hope to see you at the Brit Sports Pub and Patio. Again, you mentioned the podcast. When you're there on Sunday, you get 10% off your entire bill. That's going to do it for us. Vasti Vada Party, the VPartySports podcast. Thank you to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and everybody online checking us out. We appreciate it. I'm getting a lot of views now, and we really appreciate it. Hope you pass it along. About 200 views now as we're getting, according to the numbers I'm getting, at least mentions anyway. So we appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock East Coast time. The replay today at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow we'll have a guest, former Chicago Bears safety, Ohio State Buckeye, Doug Plank will join me live. We'll talk about the NFL Week 11. He's a radio analyst for Sports USA Media. And we'll just talk about the NCAA football. We'll get to the BCS rankings with Ohio State in his background. We'll have a lot to talk about with that as well, too. So join me tomorrow, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific for Doug Plank. And we'll do all the previews for the NBA, NCAA, basketball, and then we'll have a little bit about the NFL and the NCAA football as well, too. All right, I'm Vasti Vada Party. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern, for the VPartySports podcast. Have a great afternoon.